I am so excited to see everybody. My name is Cathy Berner, and I am the event coordinator at Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston, Texas. And I am so excited to welcome you to this virtual event celebrating the publication of Alexis Hall's novel, Audrey Lane Stirs the Pot, published by our partners at Sourcebooks Casablanca. So let's welcome Alexis to the conversation.
Hello. So it took me a second to
Hi!
hit the,
It is
the, the unmute button.
so great to be in conversation with you today. Thanks so
It,
much for joining us.
no, that's okay. It's so great to be back.
Um, I am thrilled with this book, which, okay, friends, you can see like the top edge of the cupcake matches my nails. There you
Hey.
go. That's what I went for. And then, went to
Yeah.
town on the tabs as usual. Um, I'm so excited for it because our very first virtual event with you was Rosalind Palmer Takes the
I
Cake.
know it's good. It's been it's I want to say what a long strange trip it's been, but that's obviously a out of context quote.
But it's still kind of fair.
Yeah, no, both in both
I'm
directions.
just thrilled to see this series completed. So well done, you.
Yay! No,
Yay! I
um,
want to call out the audio, narrated by Sumara McLaren. What? Oh,
it's
it's
such a
so
good job.
wonderful.
Like such a good job. I've been listening over the last couple of days, and it's been
She did a great job.
did a fantastic job.
And Sumara has also narrated A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Mandana, which,
Oh,
oh my gosh, I loved so much. It's so fun. Let's see, I talked about the nails, I talked about the recipe cards, I talked about the book plates. Okay, so when I get my hands on an Alexis Hall built book, I just devour it and go through it in one sitting, reading just to read and to have the experience. And then I go back and I do a careful reread. And wow, there's so much in this book.
thank you.
I mean, I know, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad Jennifer Hallett got her book.
Yeah, no, it's nice, isn't it? It's
Yeah, because you see her throughout the series,
yes, I was
and for her to finally, you always want to know more, and she's always jumping off the page in every single one of the three
hmm
books. So for her to do that, for her to have that, just it made me so very happy. Um, Side question, she's so fantastically profane.
yes.
I don't know that I've ever read anyone who's that fantastically profane. Did you like have like a notes app or like write things down as you would think about them, or did they just all kind of spawn as you were writing?
It's but I mean so obviously writing is less spontaneous than one likes to pretend it is. Like I don't have like detailed notes or anything. She's like the brief I've always used part of the reason she's explicitly Scottish is that she's basically female Malcolm Tucker from the thick of it, who is I think himself inspired by Alistair Campbell, like real world Labour spin doctor who was apparently fucking awful to work with. But partly it's just I'm actually quite like I can be quite a sweary person. Like I like creative swearing. It's with anything like that. It's less. It's. I don't have like a formal notebook, but very often like so just very often part of the writing process, and particularly part of the editing process, is you get to any line like that, and you're like, this could land harder, this could hit pun punchier, hit more punchily, hit punchilier, hit more punchily. Um, and and that's true for kind of any kind of line, but particularly for joke lines, but also for creative swearing lines. You're like, is that too obvious? Is that one step too vulgar? Is that does that cross the line to just a bit mean? Um, there was a it was definitely more of an iterative process than a like a than a the, definitely more of an iterative process than like a pulling. I do like the idea though of having a big book of swears. I might start just having a big book of swears just for fun, but
Yeah.
generally no. It's more of the iterative process of writing and rewriting.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I hadn't It was just a question that popped in my head, and now thinking about it, I bet during the editing process that can come up. That's fan. I just loved it. Okay, so this book, rabbit holes for this book, Studio 54, um, Andy Warhol. I am now, one of my tasks over the next few weeks is I want to find a good biography.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, people recommend one by someone named Blake Gopnik, but it's 900 pages long. And
Oh,
it's
yeah, that could be
it's
tricky.
more about like art analysis
Hmm.
than the life, so I'm gonna have to see what I can find. Sarah Waters books.
Oh, yes, too worth a look. Yeah. If you like misery and betrayal, they're actually
I
genuinely
was
really
just like,
fantastic.
wow. Um, Interesting. So anyway, I just it wasn't that is the beautiful thing about reading your books is the more wide world opens in a variety of ways.
Very
Whether
totally.
it's, guinea pig ornaments on trees,
Hmm.
or it's a certain kind of baking, or it's a new author. So thank you as always for that. Um,
I know this wasn't your intent, but I love the implication is the best thing about your books is that I can use them to find other people's books.
you know that that is
I
not
know
what
that's
I
not what you mean,
meant.
but I find it funny.
Yes, I use you as a reference for other people.
That's fair.
So one of the things that I really enjoyed, and here's a question that Bex submitted is, um, Bex really enjoyed how Audrey is a fan of Bake Expectations and also dissects and analyzes how the story is crafted. So the narrative and how that narrative is created for reality competition programs.
Hmm.
So the book references a few examples of popular series. Do you have any current favorite reality programs, competition or otherwise, that you like to watch?
Oh, well, I mean, I dip in and out of so many of them. So my partner and I are currently watching Race Across the World, which is quite a different kind of reality program because it's not quite got the same, you know, group. It's not the same group of people doing a challenge thing, which is obviously what the Bake Off model and the business show that's associated with the current president of the United States in some countries, but is in my country associated with Alan Sugar model. Um, but it's that's just like pairs of British people trying to get to Singapore without using planes on a limited budget. It's really good fun. It's really nice. You can do a lot of like headcanon storytelling. It's really hard to see a pair of people traveling across like Europe and sort of what do you call it, Central Asia, like together without slightly shipping them in your head, which is kind of adorable. It's good fun. I'm consistently obsessed with the traitors. Although I will say that I resent being obsessed with the traitors because I am aware that it is a terrible social deduction game. Like it's actually a really bad version of that kind of game because obviously it's like so what without wishing to go too far off script. One of the things that comes up a lot in the book is the idea of reality TV competitions being rigged, and the line between like what's being rigged and what's just the show working as intended and as advertised is, and like the traitors is a really clear example of this because like it does not matter if they find the traitors, like it just doesn't, because if the numbers get too low, they have to recruit new traitors. So there will always be roughly two traitors in the final thing, and that's just it. Like, so it's a terrible social deduction game, but it's excellent TV. The Celebrity Traitors was a lot better than I expected. I was less annoyed by some of the people I expected to find annoying on it. Apparently Americans reacted to the UK Celebrity Traitors really oddly. I think because British celebrity culture and American celebrity culture are very different.
So true.
So like, and I think my understanding is Americans are quite confused that when you put British celebrities on a TV game show, they actually just try and play the game sincerely rather than. There's a phrase in pro wrestling called "getting your shit in," um, where like your primary goal is to like you make sure you have a spotlight moment that you can use to further your career. But by and large, it was just people trying to do well on the traitors. And I think mostly, I suppose depending on which side you're on, doing either surprisingly well or dismally badly.
Yeah. It is very interesting to see the difference in the cultures.
Hmm.
Um, I over Thanksgiving, our kids came home and my daughter insisted on getting home in time to watch the finale of Dancing with the Stars live,
Oh,
which
right.
I had never seen. And then and I did spend a glorious 3 hours with her. I cast my first Dancing with the Stars votes, and she had all the information for me, but it was fascinating for me to see that.
Oh, yeah.
I I mean the only reality TV I've ever watched is Bake Off over and
Hmm.
over and over again. No surprises anymore. And then the next night, she insisted we watch an episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Oh, right.
She was recording my reaction in addition to paying attention to the show. And I did not have a kind reaction.
That is perhaps to be expected. I have less fondness for the more scripted end of reality because obviously it there's a big gamut with reality TV as to how scripted it is.
Yes.
Like obviously I watched quite a lot of Towie back in the day, but I've never really been a huge Real Housewives person. I think it's just always I think it's just gone one step too far in a direction that's not necessarily
I
what I'm
think
into.
that I think that's a fair assessment. But okay, so back to the book. Um,
Yeah.
I loved Audrey's analysis. And then I loved seeing the behind the scenes and how Jennifer would make decisions and plan edits to support decisions.
Hmm.
I thought that was, I mean, I always like a behind the scenes thing. And I really think you delivered beautifully well in this book.
I'm glad that's one of those odd ones because obviously, let's be clear, I have no insider knowledge. So this is
Right.
largely speculative slash based on having read some articles and some things, but I'm hoping I think that there's it's got a truthiness to it. I hope. One of the things I will always tell everyone is don't learn about the real world from my books. They're fiction. I actually talking about our first thing being the Rosalind thing. One of the most interesting letters I've ever got from a reader was someone saying that reading Rosalind had helped them diagnose a wiring fault in their house. So there are occasionally useful bits of information, but please don't rely on it.
That makes me so happy.
You read the thing where you turn the different rings off to see where the fault is. That works.
That is amazing. I love that so much. That's fantastic. No, but I like, I don't know, I like seeing how things work.
No, same.
Like I'll watch those videos of like how you make gummy bears.
Oh, I confess I've never watched How You Make Gummy Bears. There's a video I've been meaning to watch at some point about a guy trying to make a sandwich from scratch.
Oh, that would be like
Like
all the way, like
like
making
all
the
the way.
bread.
I don't know how far. I don't know if he had grows his own wheat, but but properly do everything from
Oh, wow. I gotta see if I
the
can find
first
that.
principles. It winds up being quite expensive, funnily enough, because
Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah,
Think about the cost of doing that.
yeah.
I'm gonna look for that too. If
Some
I
woman on
find it,
Instagram who's
friends,
growing a dress, apparently.
yeah. If and then also talking about how the show, which shall not be named, which this is sort of inspired by,
Yes, indeed.
um, has so many different, it has, quilting and sewing and pottery and
And
all these
so many
other
spin-offs.
interesting things that people are really enjoying.
Oh yeah,
I love that. How
oh,
do
that's
you
good.
grow a dress? God, now, Courtney, you're sending me on another rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Okay. Growing dress, writing it down. Um, okay. Sorry, moving back to this. So, thank you for that about reality TV. So this is from Sorry. It struck me only after I finished reading how utterly perfect and pleasing the 3 book arc,
Oh,
1, 2, 3, felt like in sort of mirroring the Bake Expectations Challenge structure of how you create something that looks like yours from the traditional and expected, Rosalind. Well, how do I wing it without instruction manuals, Paris? And how to produce the showstopper of all showstoppers and ride into the sunset with panache, Audrey and Doris. I may have stumbled into this, but I suspect you didn't. Could you please talk about the whole series planning process, please?
I absolutely can. So I will say I don't think I consciously had the arc of the trilogy match the arc of the show itself, especially because there's obviously only two challenges per episode on the show. Because again, obviously it's not intended to be a carbon copy of any TV shows that really exist that it may or may not be inspired by. Um, but there was quite a lot of, I think, weirdly, in some ways, more than a lot of series I've written, there was quite a lot of forward planning about what the structure was going to be like. Partly because I knew in some ways it was going to be otherwise quite a big ask, both for readers and for me. So like, so I think that structure where it's do the traditional thing, kind of wing it, go completely spectacular and off the rails. Partly, I think that's just generally a story structure, and I think the reason that reality TV shows use something very similar to that, and the the show that the books definitely aren't based on, uses that kind of structure as well. Um, and it's because it works as an arc, but I think particularly for playing the trilogy, I was with book one in particular, what I really wanted was for the experience of reading the book to feel like watching a series of reality TV. And so it's you follow one character all the way through. It's pretty
Yep.
much all about the show. You get some behind the scenes stuff, but it's very front of camera focused. But partly I was kind of semi convinced that wouldn't be sustainable, because I'm not. I think doing the same thing every time might get a bit wearing from both sides of the page, as it were, both for me and for readers.
Yep.
I will say one of the reasons that book three has the whole back to basics theme is that by the time it got to book three, I was sitting there kind of going like, what can they be doing that we haven't already done, and that isn't too close to stuff that's been done on real baking shows that we're definitely not based on. Um, Particularly because, like, obviously, if you're actually on a reality TV baking show, you have to do like a thing a week. If you're
Right.
making up a reality TV baking show with 10 contestants, you have to do 10 things a week, which is actually quite a um quite a thing to sustain over three books. Um,
Yeah.
but also, I did always want it to be to some extent about interrogating the show itself and the structure of the show and the kinds of stories those shows are telling because that's always the thing the thing that interests me about reality TV is the artificiality of it, the constructiveness of it. Um, so it's very conscious that book one is one story all the way through. It's the show, and spoiler, she wins. And then book two, it's a recognizable arc from that show, but actually it sort of stops halfway. And then there's a lot of post-show stuff, and it's a lot more about like what being a reality TV show contestant is like kind of after the show stops. Um, and then three, and then then three she gets knocked out. Second spoilers. Three she gets knocked out really early, and then it's kind of all about the behind the scenes stuff and the meta level stuff and the wider context of the stories we tell ourselves. I think particularly because the British baking show on which the books are definitely not based is there's a lot of discourse around what that show says, not just about baking, but also about Britishness and the idea of Britishness. Like, because the thing about there's layers upon layers of storytelling that go into reality TV because it's not just about literally telling the story of the show. It's also about telling stories about it's the stories we tell. Making shows are indeed available. It's also the stories we tell ourselves about the kinds of things the show is about. Like it's not the famous British baking show isn't just the story of the show. It's also the story. It's also kind of what food means to people and what baking means to people, and it's also what Britishness means to people. And the particularly in the early series, the structure of the show where it's ex-contestants and you've got maybe one token queer one who's got to be like kind of one of the two acceptable types of TV queer, and you have one maybe two token people of color who again the Daily Mail gets really angry if they win. Um, is complex. And so that was something I wanted to interrogate more and more as we
Mhm,
go along. Um,
mhm,
and because I wanted to interrogate what that kind of show tells us about tradition and because it's cozy and it's homey, and I wanted to interrogate what it tells us about tradition and hominess and Britishness. And so there's I I'm always I think like many people, I am deeply skeptical of authors who claim to have had stuff planned from the beginning because you were always like, did you though actually without wishing to without wishing to name drop the obvious example of authors who claim stuff was planned from the beginning, but it probably wasn't. Um, but there are a bunch of things for the this is about a wider story. This is about the stories we tell ourselves. This is about heritage. Because the other thing about the British baking show that the book's definitely not inspired by. The other thing about other baking shows that are available is that it's very much about heritage. Like they often do heritage bakes. You would often have the presenter going around and doing interviews about traditional baking, and
yeah.
so there's a lot of really heritagey stuff seeded right from the beginning. Like the thing about the lodge having been built in the 40s to put refugees in that or evacuees in that was in there from the beginning. Um, it's like, that was always planned. The fact that um, every single one has a scene where they interact with like the faux hermitage was intentional because like one of the other things I'm always like, I don't think it's an accident that other baking shows are available, is almost always shot on the grounds of a stately home. And I kind of found stately homes fascinating. Um, because particularly because so many of them are like Patchley, which is fictional. Other
Mhm,
fictional hotels are available. Like Patchley, they're so often repurposed as hotels. They've often changed their function, and so there is this like kind of long running thing. So the idea of it's going to be three stories, and the first one's going to be very straightforward, and the last one's going to have this dual timeline flashback. It's going to be about the Second World War thing. Um, is um was baked into the beginning. And actually, I got a certain amount of pushback about from the original editor, who was like, "Kind of, are you sure people don't really like Second World War stories anymore?" And I I stuck to my guns on that one. There's oh well, sorry, this has been a really long answer, but there's a lot to say about it. The other little behind the scenes thing. So book two, Paris's book. The original plan for that is the book's quite noticeably in two halves. You've got the on the show bit and the after the show bit.
mhm.
And the original plan was for it to be like interwoven so that you'd have like the first week of filming, then the first week of broadcast, second week of filming, second week of broadcast,
Oh,
because part of what the show is about is because books one and three, you never see how it feels to be
right.
the TV
Exactly.
person once it's broadcasting, and obviously because book two is a bit. Obviously, the other thing is there's a lot of themes that run through all three books, and the other book two is the one that's really, really about generalized anxiety disorder, whereas the first and last one just have kind of bookending slightly about generalized anxiety disorder bits in there. Um, but but the idea was to have the parallel between what it was like filming, what it's like watching it back each time, and for how and so to have the relationship done on two timelines in parallel. But so that, again, the original editor really didn't like that. And I am not I am not the kind of author who is down on the concept of editors. Like, I am the kind of author who generally thinks editors do in fact make books better.
Mhm.
Like, um, yeah, I tend to feel that, yeah, man, maybe I don't know. One shouldn't probably shouldn't diagnose without context, but very often when authors get famous, you can kind of start diagnosing the. It seems like their editors either are afraid of them or just don't
Oh
care.
my God.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And generally, I think editors' scorecards are way ahead. But I will say there's a couple of changes that were requested for the first two Baking books that I, at the very least, would have liked to try and see how they played. Not like that. Like, I think the original structure planned, and unfortunately, I don't think you could just go back and like kick the current text back into that format because the whole thing was now written sequentially. But basically, the idea was to have for book two to be a bit more like the structure of book three, where it's two stories running parallel, except that it's the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
story in two halves.
yeah. I think it would have stressed me out more.
I think to be fair, partly intentional. Um,
I know, but that would have been so painful because I remember how painful it was reading it linearly.
yeah.
But at the same time, it was interesting. We were able to do some virtual events with a Bake Off contestant,
Oh, cool.
and we talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
And they even elaborated on how horrific it actually was.
Oh, yeah.
For there was they talked about how a couple of them on their season had really received absolutely horrible
Oh no, it's absolutely
social
horrific. Like,
media
so one.
treatment. And I was just like, what? But
Yeah, no,
and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
no,
But
absolutely.
no, but it was like it just made me hurt. It made me sad.
no, absolutely. It's I like, so without wanting to talk too much about older books in the series, obviously there's a sense to it. This is a bit of a retrospective. Like one of the bits of is there's always a back and forth between you and the editor in a book, and there's a whole Twitter segment. Because back when Twitter was called Twitter, like, God, what if we thought Twitter couldn't get any worse? It's I got a couple of comments from people with from particular from editors with some of the tweets in that book of people saying like, is this too extreme? To which my response was almost always,
No.
I guarantee you, I can point to a real tweet that is 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so digressing onto the editor thing,
Mhm.
um, in America at least, a new version of Hansel and Gretel published, and they
Oh,
had
really?
discovered Maurice Sendak, who did Where the Wild Things Are,
Uh-huh.
legendary American illustrator.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He had done illustrations for Hansel and Gretel,
Oh,
and the
nice.
publisher asked Stephen King to create the story
Oh,
around
weird.
the images. Doesn't work.
No?
And I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't work. Maybe other people who read it will think it's a glorious collaboration.
Yeah.
I think that the editor didn't touch anything that
Ah,
he submitted.
no, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, I can't comment. I've not read it, but I could see like it is a problem that one sometimes diagnoses with text, certainly.
And I mean, it's too bad. And that's, Mr. King is an extraordinary writer.
Hmm.
I just think I could see when you talked about editors
No,
not being
absolutely. Yeah,
able
there
to edit
comes a
as
point.
much. I think that's a really strong point about it. Again,
Hmm.
great creator, Maurice Sendak, great, but
Yeah,
it just didn't fly.
yeah.
Um, thank you for telling us that behind the scenes stuff
No,
about
that's okay.
the story. That was really great. Um, so Dobbs said Dobbs loved getting to hear Doris's story. Same, absolute same. Hang on, I have to tell you what page made me burst into tears, like absolutely burst into tears. I wrote it down. Where is it? Page 428, friends. burst into tears. Um,
Whenever you say that, I'm always like panic. 'Cause I'm like, is she expecting me to know exactly what's on
no,
page
I am not.
428?
I'm just
Okay,
because I don't
for the
want to
benefit of readers,
spoil
that
it.
makes more sense.
I don't want to spoil it.
I'm like,
I'm
do
just
other
saying,
authors know what's on every page of their book?
no, they do not.
Good.
No, that is not a test for you. Um, anyway, Dobbs wants to know why did you decide to tell Doris's story as a side or additional story to Audrey's instead of in her own book? Um, Dobbs think it worked wonderfully. Agree. But I'm just curious, Dobbs is just curious about your decision to write it that way.
So there's sort of two answers to this one.
Ooh,
So the first one is I don't. This is sort of the reverse or the other side or the circuitous route round into the question about coming up with characters, which is because I often get like, how did you decide to tell these two characters' story? And for me, I start with the book rather than the characters, if you see what I mean.
mm-hmm.
So it's you it's so it usually starts very broad scale. I want to do a a book about this, and
Okay.
then it's usually who would be a good viewpoint character for a book about this, and then it if it's a romance, then who would be a good romantic interest for that character in a book about this. Um, so the interesting the really the kind of the Uno reverse card comment is almost you and again death of the author. I do not interpret my own books for people. You could almost make the case that it's Doris's book and Audrey's a supporting character in it, or at the very least that that is the case for some of the book because there's an extent to which Audrey has been a supporting character in her own life. Um, and from a perception point of view, for what it's worth, the concept of and book three is going to be about the house, and it's going to have there's going to be something in it involving a character who was at the house during the war. That was almost the first thing from book three, and from there we got to um like me that like from there that then led to okay, so the what kind of viewpoint character would it make sense to be the character whose point of view that story is told from, which is why Audrey wound up being a journalist, specifically a local journalist, why she wound up being someone that had moved away from doing like Fleet Street style reporting. What's the American equivalent of Fleet Street? I forget. Um,
I can't think of one because we're so decentralized. I mean,
Oh yeah,
everybody,
no, true. Doing kind of Fleet Street because you got Wall Street, but that's something very different.
yeah.
Uh, Doing kind of Fleet Street style reporting to doing local reporting, and it being about the importance of small stories and the importance of heritage and the importance of like heritage for people that don't um yeah
Don't always get their stories told.
exactly don't get the story told, which is like the whole usual of the book.
Yeah. Okay. So on page 276, I'm not expecting you to know this, Alexis. That was like one of the key points for me. This is not spoilery, friends. Um, if there had been one thing that had drawn Audrey to journalism more than any other, it had been the lure of the follow-up question. Natalie had been different. For her, it had always been a truth with a capital T. Where are the bodies buried? Who buried them? Who paid for the shovels? But all Audrey had ever really wanted to do was ask, what happened next?
Yeah,
I loved that. Oh, great, Courtney, thank you. Tabloid journalism versus investigative reporting.
I think
Future
I think
quality.
what Courtney's saying actually is that depending on how you feel about Fleet Street, you could either call it tabloid
Yeah.
journalism
Okay,
or
got it.
investigative reporting. And to be fair, I
But
believe it's both.
yeah, so also, side note, Natalie,
Mhm.
boo. Like
To be fair, you don't
boo,
get her perspective, but yeah,
Alexis.
no, she's clearly a horrible person.
But like I you did it really well. You I bleh.
Yeah, no, not great. Um,
No. Like it's one thing to feel that way. It's one thing to feel that way, but then to do that to your partner? Like
yeah,
the gaslighting was insane. And she is someone who would have been like, gaslighting is bad.
Yep.
Ugh. Anyway, almost as bad as Elaine. A-L. I never say his name right.
Alan.
Alan, that awful
Yeah.
person from book one that made me throw a book across the
Yeah.
room.
There's
Anyway,
quite a lot of bad people in the books, actually.
anyway,
There's no
that was,
particularly
but
bad
like, I
people.
loved, so we're talking about stories, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Um, and the way you continue to pursue telling the stories that are British and are
Mhm.
heritage, but have not been told.
Yeah.
That was absolutely fantastic. So, just a structure question, and you're going to be like, "Whatever, Kathy, why are you asking me this?" Did
No, no, go
you
ahead.
did you write Did you write Emily and Doris linearly, and then Jennifer and Audrey linearly,
So
and then
no,
like,
that's genuine. I know I often don't answer this kind of question or have difficulty with this kind of question, but in this one, this is actually quite an interesting one because it is a structurally complex. So little from column A, little from column B, as always. Something I always like to loop back to remind people is writing is rewriting. So what did you write when is always a bit fuzzy because it's like,
yeah,
well, it goes in a bunch of different orders. Um, it was basically done linearly with the whole story all the way through, but for the baking books in particular, I have quite a detailed outline because obviously I'm not only doing the book, I'm also doing the outline of a TV show. So somewhere, and I think actually, Woody, I might have lost this document annoyingly. I had like a timeline of each week what was being done on the show,
oh wow,
what was going on in the front story with Audrey and Jennifer, and what I intended to have going on in the backstory with Doris and Emily. And obviously that's and in some ways the Doris and Emily bit was kind of planned out more strictly because with the front story, there's more room to kind of flex stuff around because you can spread it over multiple days. You have more than one thing happen. Whereas because like the whole deal is that every week you get a little chunk of story that's narrated in a sort of set bit, and ideally, I will admit, I didn't always manage to achieve this every week. Ideally, there's like even a thematic connection between like what they're baking on the show and what appears in the story. Um, Goes away a bit towards the end as like things. Is it just it felt like it would have been tenuous to try and stick that all the way through. Uh,
hmm hmm
um, so I needed to have like a really clear, okay, we need to start with these two people meeting and it needs to end with like the end. And there need to be 8 weeks worth of plot beats for that. Um, and I did have to sit down and ask myself, like, kind of, does that work? Is that going to be paced out more or less all right? Is there going to be an? Oh, I think one of the things that was a challenge for. So I appreciate a lot of this is talking about the flashbacky bit, but it's the less standard bit, so it's the bit that had more challenges to it.
hmm hmm
Um, One of the things I did feel needed balancing is the sort of the the way the time flowed there, because obviously it's primarily designed to have that like it's not actually Downton Abbey era because that's pre First World War,
right,
but to have that like kind of Great House domestic service back when people still kind of had servants
yeah,
vibe. So there's a lot of emphasis on there's two chapters that happen very close to each other in the war, and then there's like a couple of chapters that happen very close to each other afterwards. And that's most of it. And then it starts jumping forward really, really quickly because I didn't want to lose the wartime vibe, and that's kind of the bulk of it. Um, but also obviously I wanted to have a sense of it progressing. Going back to Dobbs's question about why it's not a standalone story, I think that's honestly kind of part of it is that it was always conceived from the beginning to be a sequence of flashbacks inside a wider book, and
okay,
I don't, I think if I wanted to write it as a standalone book, it would probably need to be pitched as litfic, and I have no original litfic in my life. I have no real ins into litfic. Um, like you can't really write a genre romance novel where the pitch is this takes place over 80 years and they don't get together until they're both in their 90s. Um,
Yeah, true.
and like you can't even really. I mean, and so one of the things is like I do think I because there used to be a really strong taboo against like having essentially anyone over. Sorry, I'm just checking comments. Um, yes, that anyone over 27 is basically dead and cannot be the protagonist of a book. And like in a way, it was kind of a coup to like be able to get away with Audrey being with Audrey being over 30 in this one because like people used to be really touchy about that about it's sort of a like I feel like our attitude to age is getting less fucked up as a culture, but like I used to joke that there's like a 2 year window where you are
Yeah,
too old
yeah.
to play it, where you are too old to play an American a teenager on American TV, but too young to play their parents. And I think that's getting slightly better.
I think it is. I think it is too, and it's interesting because I'm thinking about a book that's coming out next year that I'm super excited about a woman in her late 40s, early 50s, who's kind of discovering that she can be and do whatever she wants to
Yeah,
do. And people are like, I don't know. And I'm like, what the F do you mean you don't know?
yeah. No,
Like
it's this
a
weird
45-year-old
internalization
woman
thing.
can be like, anyway, we're not
Yeah,
going down
no.
that rabbit hole. But like, I sometimes want to smack publishers on the side of the head with the ARC of the book that they're,
Hmm.
anyway,
I hope it
I'm
does
not going,
well.
yeah, no, thank you. Um, so I did that. I did that. I'm trying to think. There's like
I'm
other things.
sorry. No, I've been bouncing around a lot.
No, it's so fun. I'm
Oh,
looking
I'm
at
glad.
all my notes. I'm looking at all my notes. Okay. So, okay. I'm going to do one more thing about Doris and Emily, and then I'm going to jump to a question from Julia. But
Of
so,
course.
Doris and Emily, like at the beginning, I love how I loved Doris from the jump, and I think we were kind of meant to, but like Emily, the way she grew on me, and oh my God, the end, wow, I loved that so much. That was so cinematic. I could totally see it. I had to
Oh,
Google
fantastic.
both stylistic things and vehicles, and oh my God, it blew my mind. Um, I absolutely loved it. It was so great. And also like it's so heartbreaking because of course it's heartbreaking. That is what the reality was.
Hmm.
I, you really delivered with that,
Oh, I'm glad. No,
with those
I've
two.
got to admit, I've got to admit, I like Emily all the way through, but that's partly because I love a toxic 40s lesbian. Like it's
But
one of
I
my
just don't like that she was throwing rocks at frogs. I thought that was mean.
yeah, she's mean. She's a bad person.
I
Like
know,
one
but
of the
like,
one of the things that I've one of the things about the book that I know my editor really, as other Mary, really values about it is that in some ways the book is kind of a celebration of terrible women because
yes,
like
yes. Like I'm like, wow,
women are
I
allowed to
really
be
like.
assholes. I mean, obviously, no one should be an asshole, but like, kind of. But if we can accept that being an asshole is kind of cool sometimes for men, it should be kind of cool sometimes
Oh
for
my
women as
God.
well.
She's so cool. Mary is not Mary. I'm sure Mary is very cool.
Very true.
Emily is so cool from the jump.
Yeah.
And that scene when they go, I don't want to say anything. But there's a scene in a place that's not in England,
Yes.
that I was just like, wow. That was just that it was a what there was just it was so great.
Yeah.
It was so great. Um, okay, so Julia says, what was it like moving Jennifer Hallett from a key background character to a love interest? Julia loved that she still felt like herself from the earlier books, but we got to see her as a full, complex, sweary person. Did you always have the sense of her? Did you always have that sense of her as you were writing her in all the books from book one to book three? And what, if anything, evolved about her as you were writing Audrey?
So I mean, so again, I really hate to do the oh well, actually this was always planned from the beginning thing, but this was genuinely always planned from the beginning because the intent for book three was always to be this kind of bringing it full circle,
Uh-huh.
stories about stories, kind of it's about the show thing. The intent was always so it's really weird because Audrey's name is on the front of the book, but she was in some ways the last element of it because the intent was always, and the last one's going to be really deconstructy, and it's going to have someone who was in the house before, and Jennifer Howlett's going to be the love interest. So again, if you want to go back and check, there's so like you don't like canonically find out. I can't remember what else. Like I haven't gone back and reread the whole trilogy, and it's taken a while for it to come out. Like the fact that like Jennifer Hallett is a lesbian, for example, is sort of hinted at earlier on. I think she's relatively explicit about it in book two. Um, but like again, it was always planned that and she's going to be in a relationship with another woman in book three. A lot of the fact that she's also got generalized anxiety disorder is hinted at in book two, and again because there's the whole weird GAD sub theme in it. Um, so there's actually, in a weird way, she was very um, in a weird way, she was actually quite well in my head, quite well articulated going into book three. So she didn't really evolve that much over the course of Audrey because I'd always known that was coming. So
Yeah, yeah.
that had always kind of been in my head. And it's a lot of it doesn't come through because so one of the things that the book is about, because it's about reality TV, and one of the things that I am constantly thinking about with reality TV is like so there are in any given reality TV thing that you watch, and that's something I do myself that I try to avoid doing, but I don't try to avoid doing it too much because it's fun, is there will always be people that you look at and you're like, ah, oh, you're a wanker. You're just a fucking wanker. And I always remind myself this is a real human being I know nothing about. All I'm seeing is how they come across on the TV. For all I know, they're lovely. But that sense of people of people being radically different when seen from different perspectives is sort of intrinsic to the book. It's again very strongly explored in Paris's book, but it occurs throughout. So the idea that Jennifer had a whole bunch of shit going on that the people she only ever interacted with professionally wouldn't see, and then would come out in the third book. That was, again, I feel like a wanker saying that was always planned, but that actually was always planned.
You could, I mean, I would argue in support of you that you, sometimes you get like she was so alive from the first time she appeared. She was so jumping off the page where we were just like so desperate to get her story.
Hmm.
And P.S. I'm really glad her story is in the world.
Yeah, same.
But like we were so like I'm not surprised that you would say something like that. I believe that because she was so fully formed from the jump. And I just, God, I love her. I love her so much. She's so great. Um, and it made me really, really happy. God, what a book. Really, Alexis. I mean, every time I say this every time too, so sorry, friends.
Yeah, that's okay.
Pick up a book. I'm like, how is Alexis going to stick it? How is Alexis going to land this book? And Alexis, you landed the book and you landed the whole series.
I know, it's a really like, which I'm very glad about. Like,
It's so like it's so warm and fuzzy and so like just the feeling of it. I mean, not
yeah.
all of the books are warm and fuzzy. I would not call Jennifer Hallett warm and fuzzy. Please, Jennifer Hallett, I would never call you that. You're a badass woman. I totally respect you. Um, I also liked the part when she was talking about like, how she has to balance everything to
Mhm.
so the people at BBC would be like all the people who fund the would be accepting of it like it has to be this but not too much this, it has to be this
Yeah.
but too much that. Oh my gosh, Courtney, yes, when she steals the quilt. Oh my god, how did we not talk about the turtle named Lion?
Yeah, you have to be a very specific sort of person to name your stuffed animal the name of a different kind of animal, but Audrey's that kind of person. I
Audrey's
think.
totally that kind of person. And also, like we've been talking about, we've been singing Jennifer Hallett's praises. Audrey is also pretty wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad.
Like I just, and she's the foil for so many different, you're right,
Hmm.
she's the foil for so many different characters in this book. Also, side note, before I go back to a great question from Julia, you do parents really well.
Thank you.
You do. Like,
Yeah. I actually,
I,
also I think the only character in this trilogy, at least with the only viewpoint character in this trilogy with functional parents by quite a long way.
yeah. Oh, yeah. But they were just like, they're so great. And it was just, it's so funny the way, like, the little arguments they have
Yeah, no, it's
may or may not resemble things in my life. Anyway, um, Julia asked a great question, which I want to ask, which is which of your characters would make the best traitor or the worst traitor?
oh God, best traitor or worst traitor? I mean, go across the entire.
Pick anybody.
Yeah, I go by my entire thing. I mean, it's. Oh, good Lord. Okay, so I think that's real. That's a real. Okay, so obviously Paris would be the worst traitor. Like
That
Paris would
was
be
okay. Yes.
absolutely terrible. Best traitor. So it's a difficult one. Like I think because do I
Oh,
have a sneaky competent person? Oh, Jonathan fucking Forrest would be Jonathan fucking Forrest. I think would be an okay. I think Jonathan fucking Forrest would take it too seriously. Audrey actually would make a really good traitor. I think like she'd be the one that no one suspects. I think she'd play the Alan. Oh, Julie's a good call as well, actually. Again,
yeah.
for I think the same reason. Caspian. I think I was in my head about Caspian. I was going to say because Caspian is really good at games, and we know Caspian is really good at games. But the thing is, being really good at games can be bad if you're a traitor. Um, like Odile, if she was on the traitors, she would do the thing where she just randomly lies about something pointless for no reason. Like she would go on and she would like pretend to be German. Um,
Who
for
is
no.
who's Viola's is it Viola's cousin
Oh gosh.
who Viola lives with and is married and they have the child? Who is that?
Oh gosh, Lady Marley? Actually, yeah, no, she could be really good. That's a good couch. Couch? Couch? Cat. I was gonna say catch and call simultaneously. I ran up with the couch. That's a good couch. That's a good couch. That's gonna be my language for that now.
It's Louise. Okay. It's Louise.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I just all of a sudden I was like, okay,
Yes.
that is very fun. That was everybody excellent guesses, excellent throwouts. I am going to talk a little bit about what is upcoming. I am very excited for 2026, Alexis Hall. First of all,
Oh, you've got the arc.
I
Fantastic.
got the arc. I cannot wait to get my nails done for this one. I
What
am
color are you gonna go
so
with?
I'm, I'm debating. I don't know that my nail salon is going to have that green.
No, I don't think so.
So I think I'm going to go with one of the pinks.
You could go with the black.
I could go with the black, but I'm not a black nail polish girl.
No.
But black would look nice. I don't know. It's like this is. And also, what a blurb. John Scalzi? Pretty
That is pretty
nice.
cool. I
So,
will say
friends,
the
go ahead.
I was saying the Hell's Heart blurb that I think I like best is I like Faye funny and extremely metal. I think I'm gonna get on the TV. And I think one says goes like gangbusters and is completely bonkers or something very similar.
I don't have those on the back of the arc. I'm
No,
going
I
to
think
have to
they
look
might
them
be on
up.
the inside flat, but it depends on which edition you got.
Yeah. So, but to get ready for Hell's Heart,
Oh yes, there we go.
great illustrated classics, Moby Dick.
God, I love it. Okay, just assume I've made a dick joke. Like,
And the illustrations are so bad.
oh, oh my God, that is really quite. I know. Okay, I'm gonna admit I have a fondness for that art style because it reminds me a lot of kind of stuff that I would like read as a child.
Right. No, these were
Oh,
published. Like these were published. Like who was this published? Baronet Books.
if
Text copyright 2008. It seems older than that. Anyway,
Might be new. I mean, obviously the book itself is much older. No, because I feel like there's the illustrations you get like a choose your own adventure book, like
yes.
so obviously we didn't so in this country on choose your own adventure we had fighting fantasy, which was again a lot more metal, and the art in that was again that very line art style, but usually a lot gnarlier.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for this. So it's going to be I'm going to read this and then I'm going to read this and you know what else I'm excited about? Like the page tabs are the colors are going to match perfectly. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
fantastic!
And then also a little book coming out in June.
Hmm.
And friends, if you have not read the father material FAQ on Alexis's Instagram, we are oh, thank you, Courtney. Thank you,
Thank you very
CMC.
much. I think this might be
Bonkers
a
queer space opera I didn't know I needed, goes like gangbusters, and it is entirely insane.
I
Alexis Hall is clearly not okay, and neither are we after reading this. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
beautiful.
But
Love it.
going back to the father, that FAQ is chef's kiss. So we're going to send you a link to that. So in case you haven't had the opportunity to read it, you can read it. It's great. I'm excited for it. I absolutely trust you on whatever you're doing. And friends, I mean, I know we're all here and we all agree with this, but let's remind anybody else that if they don't like it, they can just keep their yaps shut. They can. So don't read it. Put it down. Walk away. As my wonderful mother said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Unless it's like against injustice. But anyway, you can still be kind.
If you don't have anything nice to say about injustice, don't say anything. Yes, it is incredibly, but would be incredibly bad advice.
But like I'm so happy that we got to talk with you about this. I'm so happy about
No,
the
it's lovely
full
to be here.
circle. I'm just you do such great work. You
Thank you so much.
bring such joy to so many people, and we're so, so happy that you continue to publish wonderful things that make people happy and make people feel seen, and you tell stories that may not always be told.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad to see a shout out for 10 things.
Oh, I hung my guinea pig on the
Oh,
tree last
hooray!
week.
I will say also, it's seasonal now.
It
I mean,
is. It's
it's always
seasonal.
seasonal, but it's the right season for it. I mean,
It is the right season. And it's so great. But oh, Alexis, my friend, thank you so much for spending time with us.
that's okay.
Everybody,
Thank you for
thank you
having me.
for enjoying the chat and staying on point. Well done. Excellent behavior. Um, Stars
Thank
for
you,
all
everyone.
of you today. I hope you enjoy a wonderful rest of your day. And we are so excited to get to spend time with you again in 2026.
Absolutely.
Everybody, be well and take care of yourselves.
Lovely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.